I'm starting to spend a lot of time in this Elliot's Law, and I don't mind that at all, man. It's like my second home. When I come here, I just feel a little different. Things kind of feel just a little different, but it's always a good feeling. You ever walk into your home and you just kind of, ooh, as soon as you walk in, the first few seconds you feel something amazing, and it's kind of hard to put into words, but that's how I feel like I'm in the law. But I feel that all the time when I'm in here. I'm Mark Elliott, the host of When Black Men Talk. And thank you for giving us an ear. We're going to kick off another episode of Common Ground. And if it's Common Ground, you know who's here. Dr. Marci. How are you?
I am fantastic. Excited to be here. I love your energy.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, I drank a little pomegranate juice a little bit, so maybe that kind of does something for me. Kind of kicked me up a little bit. but
Maybe so. Maybe that was it.
could be it. Could be it. At my age, you got to drink those type of things. You got to kind of help yourself out. Anyway, I want us to talk about transgressions in relationships
Mm,
because they're big. Period. They are
mm,
transgressions.
mm.
For sometimes I get these words. I come across these words like I don't hear them that often, but they're prominent in our lives. Like transgressions, they're prominent, but they're very prominent in relationships. And
Mhm,
basically, a lot of times when they happen, sometimes it's not the transgression, it's how we deal with the transgression. And
mhm,
that becomes the huge thing. It's basically how we deal with what goes on, with what happened. And I think a lot of times to deal with transgression, we need to, just like anything else, have open communication. And I believe that becomes pivotal to what's basically going on. But I don't think that's the norm when transgressions happen. I think we get more into a blame thing, pointing the finger, going off, saying mean things, you know, reminding stuff of that nature, and not necessarily maybe communicating openly of what have transpired and what I'm feeling about it. I want to
mhm.
get your response to it.
Oh boy, it's transgressions. What a word that is. What a word that is.
Hmm.
And when you talk about it being an old word, and it can mean so many things to so many different people. Um, but I think, I've shared before my feeling that most of us view things through the lens of our trauma and our past experiences. And so I think when a transgression occurs, our initial reaction, we immediately go into woe is me mode. And it's really easy to get stuck there because it's now all of a sudden I've been affronted, I've been offended, my feelings are hurt, so I'm in my feelings, and now I'm in defense mode, and then from defense mode I go into retaliation mode, and to your point, the mode we need to shift into and pivot into is communication. What am I really upset about? And so that communication has to start with ourselves and get ourselves out of that, that pity party emotional response and go from the emotional to the logical. And I have to start thinking about what is happening versus feeling what I feel. And that's a difficult transition to make, but one that has to happen in order for a positive, healthy communication to follow suit.
Retaliation. I'm going to stop there for a little while because it's going to sound real simple as in a question form, but a lot of times that's our first option. Why?
Lack of training, lack of example. That's what was done to me. So we handle things more oftentimes by what we've observed and what we've experienced than what we know. And sometimes, so they say when you know better, you'll do better. Not always. If we've got a certain habit pattern that's been forming for years and years and years, that's our go-to reaction. And if my go-to reaction, let's say I was a fighter when I was younger and somebody hurt my feelings or made me mad, I wanted to fight with them. Well, as an adult, I probably know that I can't really punch somebody in the face without there being some pretty severe consequences, which means losing your freedom. But so I can't do that. But what else can I do? So we're doing what we did as a 10-year-old kid oftentimes, but we're just doing it in a grown up way. And so I think that's why the go to is the retaliation. And the other thing is most of us didn't grow up in a household that teaches us conflict resolution. How do you express we don't even know how to express our feelings. We don't even know how to process our feelings half the time. I know that was me for years and years and years. That's a feeling? Ew, get that off. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to address it. And so when a transgression happens, it's so easy to just blame the other person, slip into what was me, and then immediately we move into, okay, now how can I get back at you? How can I show you? How can I make you feel what I feel? I want to hurt you because you hurt me.
There it is. There's the hook right there. Yeah, it's the first option because you want to hurt them because you're hurt, and most of the time you want to hurt them more than what you're hurt. You want them to feel more pain than what you're feeling. And I think for men, we grow up really with, especially it starts when we are young. You don't want to feel punked. You don't want to feel disrespected. You don't want to feel like someone looked at you and thought you were weak and you weren't about it. And those simple things, those simple thoughts, when you feel those things, when something happens or transgression happens against you, those things start to pop up in your head because they've been planted there when you're younger.
Mm-hmm.
They've been kind of pumped into you. So now you're carrying that and you're thinking that is your part of your manhood. So this person disrespected me. I gotta. Oh, I can't. I'm. I can't. I can't. I can't talk. I can't. And there are many of us sitting behind bars right now, responding to those things right there.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't just walk away. Could not think it could have been something simple, but it's such a personal impact, afflict to you feel like, I gotta retaliate. I must do something. And it's like it burns inside of you. And it's interesting as you say that I remember, growing up as a child, um, we weren't allowed to express our feelings for the most part. You weren't allowed to. They didn't give you room to express your feelings. And it's interesting. I look at my children and I had to open the door and allow them because they're very expressive about this. When I was younger, oh, they would just any little thing they can go on and tell you blah blah blah, and those were teachable moments where I didn't have that. If there was a time to express their feeling, for the most part, you didn't get an ear. You're going to deal with it, shut up, blah 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 blah. For the most part, you're going to kind of whatever you felt, you're going to internalize and deal with on your own. And I'm not complaining about that because I worked that out. But I'm glad now that I see when a younger generation, to an extent, and some of them overdo it, but for the most part, they're not afraid to express their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions. They don't keep it kept locked away inside. But getting back to the retaliation, because yeah, it's like it's especially as Americans, you could be driving down the road, somebody basically do something, you're ready to pull over and fight. Let it go. Just let that pass. Everything doesn't have to be something against who you are. That person even know you realistically. But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that for male goes back to again, you know, I don't know if you did this as a kid, and I'm not saying this is the reason behind it, but it just popped in my head. We had if we was to fight when we were younger, you just didn't start fighting. So if somebody wanted to fight you, what we did back as a kid, we put a stick on your shoulder, and that stick represented your mother. And if they knock
What
that,
in the world?
I'm here to tell you, if they knock that stick off your shoulder, you got to fight. You got to go. You got to go. Think about that for a second. You got to
Oh
go.
my goodness. I never heard of
So
that.
I'm here to tell you. I'm sure there's somebody's listening saying, "Damn." But think about that mentality as a child. You're forced to retaliate over something that simple. And
Hmm.
if you didn't wake yourself up from that as a young male, you're bringing that on as you aged in life, and you're bringing that to relationships. So as soon as she does something that's not of your flavor, that's not kind to you, no matter how small the magnitude is, you must respond because it's against who you are as a man, your manhood, what you're feeling. And that's really crazy. That is. Instead of maybe, and this is going to sound awkward, it's going to sound awkward because we're not used to doing this. Instead of trying to find out what was behind it, what caused you to do X, Y, Z, what were you thinking? Because a lot of times, even with transgressions, if we can put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and try to understand, to have it make more sense. And we don't think about that. We don't think about, okay, let me place myself here to kind of find out what's going on. Maybe I can relate to it too much, but we spend more time in the mode of, this person hurt me, so I must take an opportunity and take action to retaliate. We get caught up in it. We get lost in it. And something we should give some thought to, because I said earlier, we have a lot of people behind bars or have done some dumb things in life just based on retaliating. Simple retaliation. And a lot of times, I've heard you say this on a previous show, sometimes you got to walk away, calm down, 15 minutes, walk away and think, because that retaliation, that few seconds or few minutes of retaliation can change the course of your life.
Hmm.
Simple. The total course of your life. And that right there, man, that's taking it to an extreme. Active listening. Think about that for a second. Woo. Active listening. Sometimes listening it gets a bad rap. It gets a bad rap. It just does. You're not listening to me. I heard no, you're not listening to me. It just gets a bad rap. And in so many words, I don't know if you experienced it. I'm assuming that you have, and I might be going off the beaten path and saying this a little bit. But customer service in this country is horrible. It's horrible, and it's primarily based on they don't listen. They spend more time trying to go through the script and not really hear what you're saying. You call them, you tell them your problem. Now they want to identify who the hell you are. Okay, I get that to an extent. But time they come back to you, they heard half what you said. Now you got to go back to it. They're still not paying attention. They're not listening. And I remember years ago, I sold cars for a short period of time. And when I was going through the training process, the trainer said to me, anything in life or anytime you look in the cell, you must listen.
Hmm.
They'll tell you exactly how to respond to them, what's necessary, what they're looking for, how you can relate to them. And that is so true in so many facets of life. If we just listen, actively listen, just pull back and listen. Listen to understand, listen to basically help. We don't do those things. So when I say actively listening, that's what I'm talking about. It's crucial to understand, to respond thoughtfully. It really is. And it's a sign to me when somebody's not listening or actively listening. This is why I definitely want to get your opinion on this one, because could it be a sign of disrespect, or could it be a sign they just don't know how to?
So you're asking if they're not actively listening, why?
Yes. I'm gonna give those two as an option, because a lot of times when we find people are not really listening to us, really not engaged, actively listening, we may think in our mind they're not respecting who I am. So they don't think I'm important enough to really respect me enough to listen. Or it could be they flat out don't have the capability to listen. They don't know how.
Well, a lot of it depends on communication styles. So people communicate differently. So some people are more of a, strong with language, strong verbally. Other people are more animated with their hands and body gestures, body posture, things like that. So oftentimes things are being said that we're not looking to hear. And sometimes you got to listen for what's not being said as well. And it depends. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I don't think I can say or even venture to guess, is it disrespect or are they just not, they don't know how? I think that there's both scenarios. There's multiple other scenarios as potential too for reasons why people aren't actively listening. Um, Ultimately, again, the conversation should be about coming to resolution. And oftentimes, people aren't listening because they're trying to respond. They're trying to prove that they're right. We've talked before about arguments and trying to prove that you're right. Uh, and so, if you enter into a conversation and you have predetermined in your mind that to go into this conversation, you're going to prove that you're right. That's how I'm presenting the conversation. I'm going in here. We say we're gonna talk about this. You say you got some things you need me to hear. I agree to engage, but when I walk in, my mind is on proving my point. If I'm sold out to that, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how compelling your argument is, your debate is. It does not matter. I am sold out to believe what I want to believe. And we have to remember that people only act on what they believe. So we don't act on things that we disagree with. We act on things we agree with. So if I'm sold out to the fact that I'm right and you're wrong, we might as well not even have the conversation. Even if I look like I'm listening, however I respond is going to tell you that I wasn't. I'm on something totally different.
You did on with that one. Yeah, a lot of times they're just waiting for an opportunity basically to respond. They're not really paying attention. They're to tune you out. A word that accountability, and that's something to me when it comes around to transgressions plays a part because a lot of times with couples, when one party of the couples doesn't take accountability for the transgression, and in reality, that can make the transgression seems even bigger because there's a difference of basically owning up to it. But you do something in the trans as a transgression, and you don't really want to take accountability for it, and probably because of pride, different things, don't want to seem a certain way. But to me, that viewpoint hurts a lot when it comes down to couples when transgressions are involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we pay enough. Well, I think we realize it, but I don't think the person that's not taking accountability understand the damage that's being done.
I don't think they're investing time in evaluating the consequences and the alternatives of lack of accountability. That's one of the big things that we always talk about, both here on the show. We've talked about it a number of times, and I talk about it with my clients. Oftentimes, is the role that accountability can actually become your, to your benefit versus trying to shake off accountability, trying to blame shift, put it on somebody else, make my choice somebody else's responsibility or their problem. I only did this because you did X, Y, and Z. Well, no, you did it because you made the choice to do it. Because I had already done X, Y, and Z, and you hadn't done that. Or, well, when we talked about retaliation, well, I did this because you did X, Y, and Z. Well, you wasn't doing X, Y, and Z until you found out about what I did. So what I did is not the problem. It's you knowing about it and how you feel about it. So let's talk about that. Because you was cool with me before, but now you know that I've, committed this transgression and now we got this problem. But to even get to that point, you have to be uh, self accountable and you have to have accountability in the relationships. And I also think that a lot of times people will refuse accountability because when we're looking at potential outcomes, I'm only looking at one set of consequences. I'm only looking at the negative consequences if I admit to what I did versus what are the potential positive outcomes if I admit to what I do. How is my partner going to respond? How are they going to feel about X, Y, Z? Because at this point, I'm already upset. You've already done what you're going to do. I can't change that. How important is this relationship for us to work through this? And if either one of us decided it's not important enough, that we don't want to have a really transparent conversation about it and forgiveness isn't on the table, save your breath, move accordingly.
Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Now, this is something. This might be an unfair question to ask, but
Since
that's
when
what
has that stopped you?
I was gonna say. That's what we do here, Lady Moss. That's what we do. That's what we do here because it's the common thought by more than the majority of men believe that women fight hard not to take accountability. And it's probably one of the biggest gripes that men really have with women is that she just won't take accountability. And we can kind of understand why. Um, but being that you are a woman, I feel a sense to ask, why is that? And I'm not saying you're one of those that don't, choose not to take accountability, but it just seemed like they would rather do anything than own up to something and just take it. And when it's clear they're responsible for the transgression, whatever the case may be, they won't take responsibility. What's up with that?
You ready for me to respond, Mark?
I'm always ready. Always.
Oh boy, let me see. Where do I want to start? So, okay, let me start with men. My perception, and I'm going to frame it. My perception with men taking accountability, since we're comparing, and men think that women don't take accountability. I think women's accountability looks a lot different. Number one, so I'm not saying that women take accountability because there's a whole lot of my sisters who do not. But men's idea of accountability is, yeah, I did it. So what? You gonna keep talking about this? I said I was sorry. Let's move on. That's a lot of men's idea of accountability. Well, I admitted to it. At least I admit to it. You don't take accountability. You won't even admit you did nothing wrong. Because women will forgive you. Women will move past it. Women will allow your transgression, figure out a way within ourselves to maintain the relationship, whether it's for the good of the kids or the good of our ego or whatever the case may be. We'll figure out a way. But with men, if their woman owns up to it and comes that same way and says, you know what, yeah, I made a mistake. Oh, all I can see is X, Y, and Z. Let's use the example cheating. Oh, all I can see in my head is this, that, and the third. And you bringing it up every other conversation. And we're not you're and we're running the risk that y'all just gonna walk out on the conversation. You're gonna walk out on the relationship. If I can't get over this, I'm gonna get under something else. That's how men tend to respond when women have transgressions. It's this whole big old thing, and y'all become like these super huge drama kings. Like your whole world is crumbling because I did the same thing that you've done. You might have done it 15 times, I might have done it once, but we're not equal. There's an old song talking about girls can't do what guys do. And that's where we come down to, I feel, with accountability, because the tables are not ever going to be equal. So why would you expect an equal turn holding accountability if we don't have an equal turn in responding to accountability? If your forgiveness isn't there, then I don't feel safe in being honest with you. But if you can tell me, because you know I'm not going anywhere, I'm gonna ride for you, I'm gonna be there for you. And men take that for granted. So if you take my kindness for granted, and then expect me to be accountable to you because I've done the same thing that you've done to me, but now you want to leave the relationship. And then if I've gone through that a few times with past relationships, like I said, we're filtering things through our trauma and our past experiences. So if that's what life has taught me, is that that's how men are going to respond if I make a mistake or I have a transgression or I do the same thing that they've done to them, then what's the likelihood I'm going to keep doing the same thing? No, because I'm going to keep getting the same result. But as women, we've been conditioned when men have transgressions and they do things. And like I said, I'm speaking more so as it relates to cheating. There's all types of transgressions, but specifically that y'all are safe to admit that you made a mistake, because we're going to say, and that's not fair. But life's not fair.
Wow. We'll take a second to digest that. We'll just take a second and drink a little bit of my vitamin water.
Vitamin water, pomegranate water, whatever. I feel some type of way. I said, okay, we can go here. All right, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I want to really, I want to hear that. I want to hear that. I definitely want to hear it because you made some very strong, fine parts there. I mean, you're right. Women are definitely more forgiving when we're going to stay with the infidelity part. They are. They really are. And as far as a lot of times when it comes to that, men aren't usually coming out and saying it anyway. She doesn't know unless she gets caught. A lot of times, men, when it comes to infidelity, are sloppy. They're
Mm-hmm.
so they're so busy trying to get to what they're trying to get. They're just sloppy. They leave like breadcrumbs everywhere to kind of trace right to where it's going. So that kind of makes it easy. And men have a hard time accepting and dealing with the fact that she may have done the same thing I've been doing. They do. They have a very hard time.
I think y'all's
But
hard time is more that he might have been doing it better to her than you was doing it. I think that's where y'all really get hung up at. But that's just my opinion. I'm just being messy right now, really.
no, you're not being messy. I mean, that is definitely a part. I mean, that's not. I'm not saying that's not a part, but I think there's a part too, and that's a part. I'm gonna definitely put a check mark by that. But for a man, another part that is strong is that he can't get that out of his head. Whether it was better or not, when he cares that much about you, it's like that can't is tainted now in his head. He can't get that out of his mind, his head. So when he's applying himself to you in a physical sense, that's in the back of his head.
Mm,
And it basically beats in his head like a drum.
mm-mm,
I'm here to tell you.
mm-mm,
It beats like a drum. Boom,
mm.
boom, boom. And with that being said, he doesn't know how to handle that. He
Okay.
doesn't know how to get past that.
All right. Let's take this here, because now I have a question and I need some answers. And my sisters who are going to be listening to this want this answer too. So you said what I heard you say, excuse me, what I understood you to say in the framework of good communication
Mm-hmm.
was that the problem, or a large portion of the problem, is that men can't get it out of their head. And so y'all have this visual of him banging and clanging and whatnot, and you can't get that out of your head. So that's why it's hard to let it go. My thing is, it wasn't new when you got it. Somebody had been there before you. So why are you not worrying about what happened to it before you got into it? But now all of a sudden somebody else hit it, and now you can't get that out of your head. There could have been a whole trail of them before you got to it. Because unless you get it from a virgin, it's got some miles on it. It's already been somebody in that driver's seat. So you can't say that you like, that's like buying a couch at the Goodwill and you ain't got a problem with it when you buy it, but suddenly you get it into your house and somebody you don't like sits on it. Now the couch is a problem. Now
Well,
I don't want the couch no more.
Lady Marci, very seldom the average man or bloat, as they might say in foreign countries, is buying a used mattress or a used couch from Salvation Army. Let me just
I'm
say
just
that.
I'm just
But getting
using
to,
that as an
no,
example.
I know, and
I'm talking
I'm going with
about
your,
the
I'm going with your, yeah,
feminine
I'm
organs.
going with your example.
They
And
take all
in
the money.
reality, addressing what you said, in reality, most men, if they don't know about what really took on prior to them, they're not that concerned with it. So when they come across her and they're enjoying her, they're not thinking about what really went on prior too much. They may want to know later on, venture into, but they're not. But what tends to happen with most men, and I would venture to say this is where a lot of men go off rail, when they come across her and they're enjoying her, what she's offering, what she's bringing, what she's feeling, what they're enjoying together, men start to think of possession. This is mine. It's mine. It's mine for as long as I want it, as long as I decide there's their mindset. And so when they start to feel that, there becomes the possessiveness, there becomes I don't want anyone else near it. I don't want anything else. It's almost like a sense of protection, even if he's out there being a knucklehead. But they take on that mindset that, yeah, this is mine. And again, that's to me when they go off rail. So now, with all that's been built and stored, and like this is just my prize, only for me to enjoy. No one else should be able to get near it. You know, she feels a certain way about me that she's not going to share this with anyone else. And then when that happens, all of that comes crumbling down. And as you said earlier, he might feel someone else has done better, but I'll say it again. With all that's been sold to himself and believing, now when he's in that position with her, he's thinking, did she do this to him? Did this happen? That happened? In reality, it plays in his head. It takes away from what he's feeling. He's fighting now to deal with that as he's there. And some men will fight and go beyond it. Some men, if they don't even put themselves in that situation to even deal with that, they'll just kind of just close up shop and go, you know what? I can't handle it. Not in those words, but feel like what was done, the transgression that was done, you blank, 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 I'm just going to move on. But in reality, mentally, we're not, for the most part, most men, and we're not, I should say in general, we're not mentally equipped to think, she can do what I'm doing with someone else. We believe it's okay. We're raised to think that it's okay to go out and be with, even if I have you, it's okay to go out and do, wang, 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 but you maintain yourself for me. Because in a way, society, our forefathers or for uncles, whatever, kind of sold that to us. You find a good woman for the most part. If you get something over here, something over there, you maintain the good and you enjoy that as well, like having your cake and eating it too. But when the good doesn't seem like it's good, now your heart is broken because you here again you thought that was yours, and it's never yours. It's never yours. It really it's never is. But a lot of men believe, and let's face it, a lot of women have said to them, "Well, this is yours."
Cause
Yeah,
y'all
yeah, yeah,
ass.
yeah. No, no, I'm just even not asking, because they're trying to hook them to believe, and it's
Man,
yours, and they say it at the right times.
cause y'all
So
ass.
this, even if he doesn't, this is yours because they want you to feel, and it could be for that moment of, are they thinking,
It is right
but
there. It's true when
but
they
they
really say it.
but do they say it for the moment? Or are they saying it? They say it for that moment or the whole period of time?
Did you ask specifically?
See, here we go. You got to answer the question too first, and I answer your
That
question.
is it.
Do
That
they,
is that is
no,
answering.
no, no,
If you ask me a
because
general question, is this
no,
mine?
no,
Yeah, right
no,
now.
no,
I'm just
no.
not
They
going to expound on it because you didn't expound on your question. Is this mine forever? You might get a different answer. But, like, is this mine? You might get X answer. If you say, is this
I,
mine for tomorrow and next
I,
week? Then yeah.
I, I never ask because I assume it's
That's
not.
so true.
So I would say for the person that's asking, I don't think they're asking and thinking it's for the moment. I think when you say something is yours, you're figuring it's yours and no one else's. So if it's being said, especially during the part of having sex, to a lot of man's ego, that's going to trip him out. You know, if she told me it's mine, ain't nobody else. And that all that's going through his head. Ain't no one else going. That she told that's mine. And he's feeling like he's putting the work in, getting you to say that. And sometimes the work is not being put in, but she's saying that because in a way she's playing with you that she wants you to be close to her and be near to her and feel like, yeah, this is. So it's misleading on both fronts, in my opinion, because she can say it, but just like anything else, she could pack it up and take it when she wants. So it's really not yours.
Yeah, it's
He
on
can
a long-term
ask,
lease at best.
huh?
It's on a long-term lease at best. So
Well, you
it's
see,
not mine. If you
so
ain't the one
wait,
washing
wait,
it every day and taking care of it every day,
hey,
then it's not
hey,
yours.
y'all are so funny. Wait a minute, wait a minute. So now it's a long term lease with no paperwork, right? It's just a long term lease. That's what it is with no
Hey,
paperwork.
some
Oh,
of
okay.
it
I
got
got okay,
paperwork. Some of it
okay,
got paperwork. In the terms of marriage, it's paperwork on it. But at the end of the day, that can be absolved as well. So it's a long term
they,
lease.
okay, hang on now, hang on. Because you're saying because the marriage does bring the paperwork. So when the marriage brings the paperwork, you're saying we're thinking that until the marriage is dissolved, it's still his and nothing else is being done with it.
I mean, do you take care of everything that's yours?
No,
I
I'm
think
not.
I think if
No,
men
I'm
took care of women as well as they take care of their cars, they'd get a different result.
okay. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know. Because my thing is, I'll go back to a little bit about accountability, but I think people that basically men or women, for the most part, if they're being, excuse me, clear and communicative, you don't have to tell nobody it's theirs. You make
Exactly.
you
No
make them
harm.
feel you don't have to ask. It's just you should know. And again, you know, I've always been under the premise to where I can't control what I can't control.
Right.
So I don't control myself. I can't control what you do, who you do it, how you do it, what the case you may do. So I'm not going to spend the energy, and that's thinking about it, or put myself in a situation to think about it, because and that's when I say when men make the foolish mistake, I believe, because that's what they want to possess and have, and you can't. It's like I can't reach up and grab the sun. I could try. I never can be able to control that. I can't control what someone else do. So when you start to assume that you can, and you have ownership of something that you can't have ownership of, you're off rail.
Right.
And
I
that's
feel
and
like.
that's.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You can go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say. I guess for me, my philosophy in general, not just speaking as far as sex goes, is I don't ask questions that I'm pretty sure is going to elicit a lie. So if I think that you're going to lie about it, I'm not going to even ask the question. I'm going to go on the assumption that I have. Now, if I feel like I can get a truthful answer, different story. So in the context of this, so most guys ask that question in the throes of passion. Let me keep it PG. And at that moment, there's a really only one right answer that you really want to hear if you're a guy who asks that. You don't want to hear, no, it's mine. You don't want to hear it's yours tonight, but it was Brian's yesterday. You don't want to hear all men want to hear when in that moment is yes. Anything other than yes, it's yours is a mood killer
Okay,
and it messes up the moment. And so that's why I say like why do guys ask that question? But
but
as a, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but why is she telling him if he's not asking? Why is she saying that to him if he's not asking?
I okay. Well, I guess I'm a female, so I don't know how many women do that, but to me that's ridiculous. Why in the whole entirety of hell would you tell a man it's his when you know darn tootin' good and well it's not? If you know that there's even a speckle of a chance you finna share, why would you volunteer that? Typically, it's because we're put in a position to answer a question. Now, okay, I'm just be honest. I've said no, it's mine. I don't have a problem saying no, it's mine. But got my hair pulled, but that was a whole other story. Never mind.
Okay.
Anyway,
Now,
so
I mean, I'm
but
sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I just don't think that's the time to ask. And I don't know how many women just go out there and volunteer that information and be like, yeah, you know, it's yours. Now, in the context of saying, I'm only seeing you, do you mean it like that? Or are we literally saying she's yours, it's yours? Because those are two, in my mind, kind of two different things as well.
Well, let me address a couple of things here. It's I love this about women. I do. I really do. When you ask a woman a question like why is she saying that to him, they'll give you a response, well, based on who they are. Well, I don't know if any other women. It's happening. Trust me, it's happening. It's
That's why I
it's,
preface in
but
my
it's like
defense, I preface that.
I know,
Oh,
I
girl, I
understand that.
don't
I
know.
understand. I totally get it. I totally get it. But they'll give you a response like that based on what they feel. Because if they're not doing it, other women can't be doing it. Trust me, they're
It
saying
seems so
it.
ridiculous to me. That seems just like the dumbest thing you could say as a
I'm
woman. Girl,
telling
stop,
you,
stop
they're
talking.
saying
I was
a
like,
lot
girl,
of
no.
times. A lot of time it gets said without being asked. And like I said earlier, for the reason of trying to basically get in your head, make you feel a certain way, and give you
Mm-mm.
ownership that they really can't give, and they can pull back anytime without paperwork. So that happens, and that's where I mean I know we got into this, but that's when I asked the question about accountability. Is that again, and I see where you took it with this, but even if you go away from infidelity, you can go with simple stuff accountability. Simple. They won't take accountability. It's
Because
just
because I feel like men want us to respond logically and get mad when we respond emotionally. And then when we bring something to y'all, y'all respond emotionally too. You're not necessarily responding logically, but you want us to be something that you're not. So why is it okay you can respond to something that I've done out of emotion or react to something emotionally because response is logical, reactions is emotional. So you can react, but you expect me to respond. And I'm supposed to be calm, cool, and collected with it. Like
okay.
I feel like there's a that accountability is lopsided in a lot of relationships, but again, goes back to communication.
Okay. Now I'm gonna say this because to me, when I hear okay, you expect me to answer logically, and you say men don't. Okay, to me, I think individual accountability of certain circumstances or individual circumstances lies on its own merit,
For
not
sure.
what someone. But if you're saying the reason why they're not because they feel he's not going to, I don't see where that's valid because my point is accountability to me is not logical or emotional. It's ownership.
I
It's just
agree.
the yeah. But and that's the thing. Again, when I say men are saying that women just for whatever reason, and they'll make up excuses that they feel is justifiable to not take accountability. And it could be simple. It could be who left the refrigerator door open. Did you leave it open? Well, I wouldn't have left it open if you didn't go in it 2 days ago. not accountability. It's just
Oh
not
my
accountability.
gosh.
It's just, and that's simple. But it's just simple, okay, and that's it. That's what a lot of men are saying, and that's the thing. It's like, and just like you said, it's like it gets spun to, well, you this, you're whatever. But a lot of times we want to know if you've done something or a transgression of any sort. Just own it. That's it. Just own it. It doesn't make you a bad person. If we're in love with you, doesn't mean we're gonna stop loving you. But it becomes, and this is kind of the part that's underneath all that, it becomes a level of trust. Because when a person refuses blatantly to not take accountability with something to you, you don't know when you can trust them. You
Mhm.
don't. And it may sound small, but that is kind of reality. When can I really trust you? And that ain't got nothing to do with infidelity.
Right.
When can I really trust you when I can't trust that you're going to take accountability of something? I'm just rolling with you at that point. And he may never say that. He may never come around to it. But bet your last dollar, as Don Cornelius would say, he's thinking and he's feeling it. I can't really trust you because you're going to respond and answer is what's more favorable to you, not the reality, not accurately. Your response is going to be what is favorable to you. And that's how men view it when it comes to accountability. So there's a level of distrust right there that's already installed. It's punched in.
But
We
I
just
think
don't.
I think a lot of it goes back to, though, am I safe to tell the truth? If I think that the slightest little transgression is going to cause you to walk out, how eager am I going to be to take accountability? Have you made it safe for me to be accountable? Am I able to come to you when I have a problem and tell you, like, I think I messed up? Is that a safe space for me to do that? Because if it's not, then no, she's not going to take accountability. And I think not taking accountability, I think it's just common in general in relationships all across the board, men and women in this day and age. I just feel like there's like a loss of accountability. But I also think we have some lopsided expectations too. But I do think that and I'm only going to speak for myself, if if you put me in a position where I've made some sort of a mistake, I'm probably going to tell the truth and be honest about it and take accountability, because I firmly believe it's going to come out regardless. There's no point in me trying to hide it. I also am a firm believer that when people ask questions, they probably already know. So I'm more than likely going to take accountability. But I'm also going to always consider, how is this going to land? Is this person going to go off at me? Are they going to, because if that's going to be the case, then I need to prepare for that. And so also framing how we take accountability. I think sometimes, like, men typically are less words, women are more flowery. So it might seem like we're trying to shirk responsibility for something, and we're trying to give you a full context, where men are just like, either it's yes or no. And we're like, no, it's yes, no. We gotta give you the butt. Like, you need to understand where I'm coming from. You need to understand the context. You need to understand why I did it, right? Men aren't like that. Men are like, gosh damn, is it yes or is it no? Did you take the trash out or did you not? And we're like, well, I was going to, but the phone rang
Oh,
and then I had to take the dog out. And then
oh,
when I came back, you had already taken it out. So I couldn't.
oh
That's what it
man.
looks like. And so I think you guys take that as, I'm not being accountable for not taking out the trash and you had to take it out. Versus I'm looking at it like, well, if you would have just left it there for a second, I was going to get to it after I was done with the dog and the phone call.
Oh my.
So I
I.
think there's a difference there. Like, we're flowery. What they say, white men can't jump? She said, if I ask you for a glass of water, It doesn't mean, if I tell you that I'm thirsty, it doesn't mean I want you to bring me a glass of water. I want you to understand. I want you to understand that I'm thirsty. That's it.
You know, something as men we realize no matter how it goes, it gets brought back to us just our fault.
See?
It's just our
I don't know
fault.
why we didn't start there to begin with.
Yeah, because because you didn't take the garbage out. It's really our fault. Because we didn't allow you to take the garbage out. It's
Because
just
you
our
took it out
fault.
before I could get back. I was at the
Oh,
school. I had to go pick
oh,
the
but
kids up, and I was going to take it out when I came back. It don't matter that you asked me to do it at 7 o'clock this morning and at 6 p.m. I was going to
I,
get to it. Y'all do the
I,
same thing when it comes to cutting the grass and fixing stuff. So,
I'm not going to disagree with that, but I will say this. I don't know. I feel that women are great justifiers. Y'all could
absolutely.
ju- y'all could justify anything,
You see how I
anything.
just did
We
that? That came off the
we
dome.
we we don't get the same opportunity. We just don't get the same opportunity to justify stuff. We can't.
I
It's
don't
just
think y'all try, though. Like, seriously, men are just like, this is it. Take it or
because
leave it. I don't want to freaking keep talking about it. I'm trying to watch the game. I told you what I told you. I said what I said. Now, are we done?
well, you know why I think that happens because a lot of times when men speak, we say what's there, but what comes back to us, okay, you said this, but you must have meant this. No, that's not what I meant. I said what I meant. And I didn't. So it gets transcribed into, and it's almost like it's easier for her to accept it if she can put it in her own mind space. But now you come back and you want to sell us to us different than the way we gave it. We gave it to you the way it is. It's clear. It's simple. Da 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 da. But now you come back and it's like, well, if you did that, you must have been thinking. I told you what I was thinking. It's not. I must have been thinking. So in reality, we are more clearer to it. But I think what happens is it's not accepted. So
Because we
therefore,
feel like
it's
y'all are leaving stuff out. We feel like y'all are leaving stuff out because we like
no.
context. We like the flowery language. We want to know all the details. It's like with if we've got two friends. You talk to the homeboy, I talk to the homegirl, and they're having relationship issues, and they broke up. You're gonna come home and you're gonna be like, "Damn, Tony and Rebecca broke up," and she's gonna say, "Why? What happened? I don't know, bro. Just told me that they broke up," and you go on about your day. Meanwhile, woman talks to Rebecca. Oh my gosh, Tony and Becca broke up. Oh, they did? Yeah, and this, we got to give you all the details. We need to give you the context, and that's what we
Well,
want back because that's how we talk. That's how we understand. That's how we process, and that's that fine line between how men communicate and how women communicate.
now
You just don't need to know why. We have
I
every
get the
need in the world to know why.
I get the processing, but isn't that need to know why no being nosy?
No, it's caring, it's consideration, it's concern. That's my girl. Oh my gosh. I feel bad. I thought they had the
Oh,
perfect relationship. So like we're processing the hell out of this stuff. And you're like, shit, I'm just glad it ain't my old lady. Glad it didn't have nothing to do with me.
okay. I learned something tonight because accountability is based on the mere fact that we don't show up certain ways, so there's no need for it to be accountable. Oh man, I tell you what, men, we got it now. Well, now we got it. We understand why women are not accountable. We can no longer complain about it. We can no longer complain about it. That's one complaint we can check off. Let's take a
But
12 line to that. Mm-hmm.
but I will say, so that's the reality side of it, right? That's what we deal with in relationships. But when it comes to truly being accountable, again, it's going to go back to your ability to communicate. And how do I put this in a perspective where I can feel safe sharing the truth? If I did make a mistake, are you going to hear me out? Are you going to listen? Are we going to talk through this? Am I at risk? Is the relationship at risk? And if any of those things are true and something is on the line, now we've moved from just a simple conversation into a critical conversation, because now it's moved into a high stakes category. And so the conversation has to look different. It has to be framed differently. And even the environment has to be different. You can't have a high stakes conversation in the same type of environment and situation that you can have one when nothing's on the line. And people sometimes try to have those high stakes conversations at a time when now's really not the time to have this depth of a conversation. We can say, well, okay, there's some stuff here we need to talk about, but I'm not in the frame of mind to listen to you right now, and being honest about that, because I'm more likely to be able to be accountable if the person I'm talking to is going to listen and hear my side of it. But if you're sold out, you're shut down, you don't want to hear it, you've already, feel how you feel, then why should I be accountable? You're not going to hear me anyway. You don't want to hear what happened. You don't want to hear, how I was feeling, whatever. Does that make a difference as far as the fact that you committed a transgression? No, it doesn't matter why you did it. You did what you did. But in the context of saving relationships and being able to move on from that, from the point of accountability, it does matter that you let me express myself. Doesn't change anything, but did you give me a safe space to be able to communicate that? And do I feel like we can move forward from here? And if we can't move forward from here, can we at least go our separate ways in an amicable manner?
That's good stuff. I'm going to say that's good stuff. But I would think too with that if you're in a relationship with someone, you two owe it to each other to allow that person to be accountable and give them that space to where they can really just be accountable and say what's there,
Mm-hmm.
and not do such, him or her, at the most part, because it's that's what should be the norm, I believe. It shouldn't, a person have to feel like they have to hide something and not say something based on, if it's going to be said, it's going to basically, torpedo the relationship. And then again, it all depends what took place, but I don't think accountability should be something that, realistically, if it's spoken or taken, it's going to be something that just, dissolves the relationship or bring that much harm. So I think a safe space should always be given. Um, I think a lot of times when accountability is not given, again, I think the person starts to feel a little bit being played with. They feel like they're being played with and they're not really being taken serious. And I know you spoke earlier about women feel like men or, might just act this way, but a man will start to feel like she doesn't see me serious enough to really take accountability. So she, in a sense, she's taking me for granted without taking accountability. So I'm just going to basically accept what she says, how she delivers it, how she gives it, because she knows I want to be with her. And from that, from a male perspective, resentment starts to build. And I swear I spoke earlier about the trust factor, but resentment starts to feel build because sometimes taking accountability, it's on small stuff. It's not big things,
Mm-hmm.
but we feel if we can't rely on you to take accountability in some of the small things, how the hell are you going to take accountability in the big things? And again, that's bouncing back between resentment and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have those two factors already established, not trusting, you have the resentment. And then when something does happen, it's easier at that point to close up the shop. And you know what? Because realistically, you haven't forgot about, or we haven't forgot about the moments that you haven't taken accountability. We haven't forgot about it. We may not keep bringing it up, but trust me, we have stored that in our head. We haven't forgotten. We haven't wiped it clean. And it's there. And every time accountability is not taken, it gets stacked on the other one. Poop, it gets stacked. So when something does happen, we're like, you know what? Damn this. This has been going on all along. I'm starting to feel like a fool if I stay here. And that's where a lot of times the reaction that you spoke of, that's where that comes from. Because the chances of accountability that should have been taken a while were never taken. So even, when a man cares for a woman and the trust is there and everything is rolling and he's into her, I don't, it's going to be hard for him to pick up his tent and go. That's not what he wants to do. His retaliation may speak it or say that quickly, but in reality, if you're for him and he knows it, it's hard. It's hard to pick up and leave. But what makes it easier is what I just said earlier. It makes it easier, and it kind of seals the deal. So it sounds simple when accountability is not taking place. I know it sounds simple. And a lot of people think they're getting away with it, and it's like, oh, great, and it's cool and it's groovy now, but it's building, and it's building, and then something may happen that doesn't even warrant pulling the plug, but the hand's been getting closer and closer to the plug based on the lack of trust and the resentment.
I think women stuff a lot of stuff down too and don't post men up about it. And so, just like y'all hold stuff and you're keeping score, I think women do that as well. They just don't post up the situation. I think men are more likely to confront something and demand accountability for it, where women are going to let a lot of stuff slide and they don't even bring up things until it's risen to an occasion of now I demand some answers. I think they let a lot of the little stuff slide. And so it can seem like men always take accountability or more often than not take accountability, but I think there's a lot of things that women just don't address with their significant others. And then we get to the point, well, I already know he lied about X, Y, and Z, so what am I going to tell the truth for? And two wrongs don't make a right, and neither one is going to build intimacy, neither one's going to build trust, neither one's going to build up the relationship. You're both at that point tearing it down. And so we have to get to the place where we can talk about things as they come up and not sit on them and stuff them and hold them or, go talk to our girlfriends or go talk to our homeboys and, let them put a battery in our pack about it. And so then we go back into the relationship and now I'm all fired up because so and so said X, Y, and Z and I hadn't thought about that. Now I'm mad about what they told me about.
Yeah,
And we're bringing something totally different into it. So, um, yeah, I think that's not part of it.
but that's dynamite. Really is when you said she going to her girlfriend, and he's going to. You're right. now you now you come back with infusion, and you have more gunpowder, and it doesn't help.
Hmm.
Instead of she going to her and him going to him, come to each other
Right.
realistically because they're not going to give you realistically what you need. 9 out of 10 times, they're both are going to feed what you're feeling,
Hmm.
and that's not going to help. So yeah, the communication has to be between him and her, and that's the common ground, Doc. That's the common ground. See,
Good
after all
stuff.
that non-accountability and accountability, we make it to the common ground. I knew we would. I knew we would. I knew when we started this, we'd make it to the common ground.
I had to act up a little bit tonight. I'm usually on good behavior.
I like your acting up. I like it. I like it. I like it. It definitely cracks me up. Hey, want to thank you for doing what you always do. Come on, this is no surprise. Come on now. Some could say you show up and show out. I'm just going to say you show up and do your thing.
Oh,
I'll put that. You show up and do your thing, and I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Looking forward you showing up more often, doing your thing more often. I appreciate it.
love it, love it, love it. When you call, I'm on my way.
Oh, nah, I love that too. I love that too. I'm just gonna let that ring around my ear for a little bit. In the meantime, I thank you folks for giving us giving us a listen. I appreciate that you do. Never forget, never stop thinking, and always wake up and know, no matter what you're walking through, God loves you, and we love you too. Take care of yourself.